Now, in a previous video, which I really want you to watch, it'll be linked in the description down below, I showed you how to install Python for statistics, biostatistics, data science, machine learning, any kind of work that you want to do with Python. I showed you in that video how to install Python on your own system. Not just to go to python.org, download and install Python, but rather to use Miniconda to manage your Python installation. Now you've got your Python installed and set up using Miniconda, but you still need a program in which you are going to type your Python code. And arguably the best place to go is using Visual Studio Code. So I want you to go on to your favorite search engine and I want you to type Visual Studio Code, and that's going to bring you to this page. Now don't choose Visual Studio on its own, that's a much bigger install. We only need Visual Studio Code. Free of charge, fantastic, and I think by far the most used application to type code with. Now it's going to detect your operating system. If it doesn't, you can just go down there and select the appropriate version. Please just download it, double click and install it. Just accept all the defaults. There really is nothing to it. Now once you've downloaded and installed Visual Studio Code, you just have to find it to launch it. It'll be somewhere on your start menu when you're using Windows, or it's going to be in your Finder when you use Mac OS. So here you go. I have now started my version of Visual Studio Code. Now I have used Visual Studio Code for many years, so yours is going to look very different from mine. First of all, you can see all sorts of recent folders that I've been working on, projects that I've been working on, and you can see I can create a new file, open a folder. Open a folder is what we'll usually do. You know, you will have a folder on your computer where you have your spreadsheet files, your data. That's the one that you're going to open up, and that's where you're going to create files that you can type your Python code into. What I want you to do though is to realize that on the left-hand side we have an Explorer, we have Search, we have Source Control, we have Run and Debug, but then we see Extensions, and I want you to click on Extensions. And as you can see, I've got many extensions already installed. But the way that Visual Studio Code works is it's just this blank canvas. And you can use it to type many different kinds of languages, type code in many different kinds of languages. So what we have to search for in the marketplace right at the top is just Python. So you can type Python right there, and you're going to see usually developed by Microsoft. Those are the ones that I would always trust. So the Python developed by Microsoft, I'm going to click on that and install it. Now on my system, it is already installed. So I don't have to do it, but please go ahead and do that. The next package I want you to look at is Jupyter. Remember, we installed that before, but there we go, Jupyter. Now you'll see Jupyter, you'll see Jupyter Key Map, you'll see Jupyter Slideshow, Cell Tags, Notebook Renderer. You can click on all of them. They're all developed by Microsoft, all completely safe to do, and I absolutely want you to install those. Now once you've done that, let's go back to the Explorer, and we're just going to open a folder on our internal drive for our computer, and that's where we're going to create a file into which we can type our Python code. So I've opened a folder on my computer, and this is what it's going to look like. When I click at the top there, you'll see a little icon and it says New File. So let's click on New File, and now I'm going to name my file. Maybe I name the file Demo, but I've got to do a specific file extension. It's called .ipynb for IPython Notebook. And I'm going to hit Return or Enter, and there we go. It is a Jupyter notebook that we've opened, and we can type our Python code right inside of this file. That file is saved on our internal drive, no problem. Now what I do want you to notice is right there at the top right, it says Select Kernel. Let's click on that, and then down here you see Python environments. Remember, in the video on installing Python, we created environments using Miniconda. Now this is exactly where you're going to find it. And Visual Studio Code will go and find all of your environments. Remember, the one that we created was demonstration, so I can just click on that one, and now we have the demonstration environment running with all the extra packages that we installed inside of that environment. So you can see a little warning pops up at the bottom. If that does for you, you can just ignore that. And now we have a notebook in which we can type our code, but remember, these are Jupyter notebooks. In other words, you can put normal English text there, you can put images there, You can format your fonts so that you have titles, subtitles, etc. It is a fantastic environment to write code, but also as a research document. Now I'm just going to close down this demo. Let's save the file. And I want to show you that we are not just stuck with Python. If I go back right here to my extensions, I can look for the R extension. And that means I can write R code inside of Visual Studio as well. And there we see the R editor. Now I've already installed it on my system. And so if I go back, you'll see there's a little button there and it says R. So I can create a notebook and I can type R code right inside of Visual Studio Code. And we've seen Python, we've seen R. There are many other languages that you can use right here inside of Visual Studio Code. And there you go. Please look for and install Visual Studio Code, and that should be your #1 code editor.